new episode comes out, we'll be 2 weeks into the start of summer 2026, and I'll be in Hawaii celebrating a good friend's wedding. I know I'll be living my best life. I'm hoping to swim with some turtles, and I hope this episode inspires you to live your best life this summer and beyond. Knowing we're going to be halfway through 2026 and summer will have just started, I wanted to share something that I found on Cosmopolitan magazine, on June 30th, Jupiter entered Leo, bringing all of us a dose of cosmic luck. Jupiter is the planet of growth and abundance, and it's nicknamed the Great Benefic because it makes good things happen. When it's in Leo, all things associated with Leo, like creativity, fame, fun, and generosity, get a little cosmic boost. Jupiter will move into Virgo on July 25th, 2027. So make sure you live up summer 2026. According to this article, summer 2027 will feel different. It's giving me ominous vibes, but we're going to stay in the now and live our best life this summer. And I will share a link to the article in the episode description so you can check it out for yourself. For those of you who have been listening for a while, you know that I'm an avid manifester. I'm all about living with intention, learning from lived experiences, because life is about growing. We have a special guest with us today who is a hot commodity. She's a kindred spirit and someone who lives with intention. We're so grateful that she's taking time to join us on the pod and share her wisdom. Without further ado, very excited to welcome fellow millennial New Yorker and Canadian queen, Amanda. And I'm just realizing I don't know how to pronounce your last name.
That is okay. It happens all the time.
I meant to ask you.
Schaufele. My mother always said when I was young that it's like a shy flea, which, I hate, but it really works. I remember it well.
Amanda Schaufele is here with us today. I've known Amanda for a little over a year, about a year and a half, and feel blessed that I get to call her a friend. I'm going to stop talking now and let Amanda introduce herself.
Hi, Amanda Schaufele. I grew up in Western Canada in Alberta. I'm fifth generation Albertan in my family, actually. And so that makes me the first immigrant in that many generations to New York, where I moved about 6 years ago. I don't know if that qualifies me just yet as a New Yorker, but the energy of Western Canada and New York are certainly quite different. I work in strategy, and outside of that, I'm probably, cooking something vaguely French, hosting a dinner, traveling somewhere. That's me.
Women of the world. You technically, I think, to be a New Yorker, they say 10 years, but you're halfway there.
I think I'm halfway there. I also had the incredible benefit of being here during the pandemic, and I felt like I got a really unique experience of moving to New York during that time. That was particularly New York, and I married a New Yorker, so I think that gives me a little bit of an edge on that 10-year time frame.
It for sure does. I think. And I didn't realize that you moved there during the pandemic, but that was a wild time. So the fact that you stayed in New York and did not leave, I feel like gives you extra brownie points.
Thank you.
It's not an easy city to live in, but such a beautiful place.
Agreed.
So I know that we offline were talking about just intentions, how we approach the year, and you had shared about your word of the year. So we're going to be digging into that in today's episode. I'm super excited about it and wanted to take a step back and ask you if you've ever had a word of the year before, and did you actually stick to it?
Yeah, I have a word of the year every year. My partner and I both do. It's kind of our way of setting a sense of a shared rhythm for how we want to move through the year. It's allows us to be really intentional with having, different chapters. And so we've been doing that quite early in our relationship. We were inspired by close friends of ours who approached their lives in a similar way. Yeah, last year was Giddy Up was our word of the year, which was, yeah, say yes quickly, move fast, a little impulsive. And I remember the line I used to pitch it to my husband was that it means wine and oysters on Wednesday. And he was like, yep, sign me up. And I don't think he fully registered it. Might also mean a 6 a.m. workout class. But yes, last year was Giddy Up. And this year we landed on study.
That is so fun. I love your pitch. I feel like that would get me if I heard wine and oysters on Wednesdays. I was so fascinated by your word of the year this year's study. And what did it bring up for you since we are halfway through the year?
Yeah, what I love about it is that we choose the same word but interpret it really individually. So it keeps us aligned without being rigid. Like if one of us was in a giddy up year and the other one was in a study year, it'd be pretty hard to manage our daily lives. But when I first started thinking about the word of the year this year, we had gone through a few, and study brought a lot of resistance for me. It sounded slow, and I don't feel very comfortable moving slowly. But it's funny, one of the reasons we chose it is because my husband, as we've talked about, was working on his thesis, and I personally felt that he wasn't moving as quickly as maybe I would have. And I had a timeline in my head for how it should go. So the word started as okay, let's study, lock in. But it actually kind of ended up turning back to me because it became this realization that maybe I'm not always right about pace, and maybe other people have different ways of doing things, and part of loving them is understanding them and not pushing your version of right or pace or whatever it may be onto them. So study kind of got a little deeper for me after that first month, when it became more about learning how to sit in things, emotions, someone else's process. So yeah, the word ended up pointing exactly to something that I tended to avoid, and maybe a lesson I needed to learn.
I love that. I know sometimes it's so hard for me to sit still too. I'm like, it feels uncomfortable,
Yeah.
but I feel like learning to live through that uncomfort and also just taking time to do things slowly sometimes
Mm-hmm.
can benefit you.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. So, do you feel like in general, people have gotten used to consuming instead of actually learning?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think we mistake exposure for understanding all the time. Like, just because something passes through you, whether it's like your feed or your FYP or like even in front of you while you're walking down the street, doesn't mean it changes you. Learning takes like time and friction, and most of what I feel like our world is built to do right now is to remove both of those things.
Yeah, just a lot. I feel like we're consuming things for a very short amount of time, but we're not actually sitting with them.
Right, because
Yeah.
everything's so optimized to like get rid of boredom, right? And I think in those spaces is where like a depth of understanding or maybe creativity can come more from. Yeah, but you almost have to fight for it sometimes.
Yeah, it's definitely not how our brains are being trained for sure,
Not at all.
and not what the topic of conversation is. I feel like more people want to know a little bit about a lot of things versus diving into like one subject or sitting with
Ah,
something.
interesting. Do you find that you have trouble with that as well?
Sometimes, yeah. And then I have to remind myself that it's okay to not know, like to not know things
Yeah.
and to just focus on one thing at a time.
Hmm.
But it's so tempting to do the opposite because there's so much information everywhere.
Agreed.
Oh, I love this conversation. And I know that we've been talking about like opinions, and you had mentioned being good at forming opinions, what does it look like to let them marinate instead?
Yeah, I think it looks like not performing them immediately. Like for me, it looks like connecting to my emotions maybe a little bit deeper or at all, which is something I'm not particularly good at. Um, I'm used to having a clear point of view quite quickly that, I just move forward with. So study for me also is like about letting something sit longer, being willing to say, I don't know yet, or I don't have an opinion on that, or I'm still figuring that out, feels incredibly vulnerable for me sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's normal. And I feel like, I don't know if you can relate to this, but there was a time where I was just felt like the right response was to always have an opinion when someone
Mm,
had a question. And through therapy, I've been unlearning that and learning that it's okay to like pause. It's okay to say, like, yeah, I don't know right now and I need time to think about it. And sometimes that when we do that, we have a more honest answer because we've allowed ourselves to really think versus just like reacting to a question or an opinion.
right. Like, I think we've trained ourselves to have immediate takes because in some ways it feels like control. Like uncertainty is uncomfortable. So we kind of like rush to close it, even if that answer is like shallow or, and once we've said it out loud, then like once we've shared our take, it starts to feel like a part of our identity. So then changing it feels like losing something. Um, yeah, it's a challenge for me.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can probably relate to that. And sometimes we say yes to something so quickly that then when we sit and we're like, wait, actually, we don't actually feel that way or want to do it, but it's been said out loud. So then you're like having to backtrack. Why do you think we feel the need to have an immediate take on everything?
I always joke, like, I think I have like a competence kink. And so, like, I really have like friendships and relationships with people that are competent, and my perception is that they are. And I think that, like, for me, I have this like instinct to jump in, like, I know the answer, especially with like work. And I think that robs me a lot of the time of the chance of learning something or learning a new way to approach something or just a different perspective. So for me, I think it's kind of tied to this sense of how I want to be perceived or how I perceive myself. I read this book, Think Again, and it talks a little bit about how people that update their thinking actually build more trust. So, like journalists that would write an article and then decide that they felt differently about the point of view that they put forward actually have more trust, and are perceived more competent by their audiences. So, I really try to remind myself of that whenever I'm feeling a certain way about it. And like that changing my mind isn't like a weakness, it's maybe like more of a signal that I'm paying attention, that I'm moving forward, growing.
Yeah,
Um,
staying open-minded.
mhm, mhm.
Oh, that's so interesting. I'm gonna have to look at this book and I will include a link to it in the episode description for anyone else who's curious. I
Oh,
like
well,
this idea of keeping like thinking again and I could see how that could build trust.
mhm. What's your
So
theory?
interesting.
What's your theory? Why do you feel like we have the need to have this immediate take on things? Is it like social, I guess, is a bit of it too?
I do think part of it's like the way social, and this is maybe
Mhm,
me geeking a little bit because I did study communications and that was my
mm,
major in college. So we had to learn all these different forms, like ways that humans have communicated over the years. And now we've been in this digital era where everything is happening fast paced,
mm,
like from, text messages to voice memos and the access to information. So I think part of it is socially, things are moving quicker and it's easier to have an immediate take on something, but it doesn't
mhm,
necessarily mean and I've just learned this personally that it's an authentic take. And then there's like that like underlying pressure of having an answer and having an opinion because there are so many opinions in the room usually. But that's something I'm trying to like take the step of like observing more sometimes. And maybe if I have an opinion, like holding it for a beat, when I share it, it's more informed
Mm.
and not so like kind of half-baked. But that's been hard because I feel like my default was to like someone asks me a question, I have to have an answer. I can't like say, actually, I need a minute. And that's where therapy, like my therapist is like, actually, it's okay to need a minute. Like that's normal. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah, it's normal. So I've been trying to stay open to that and kind of unlearn that. And it's uncomfortable in the moment when I have to practice it, but it also feels empowering because I feel like I'm not then just like saying things that I maybe don't fully mean because I feel this imaginary pressure. Like no one's really pressuring me. I just do
Mm.
it myself, but I think that's something a lot of us do in society nowadays.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I encourage everyone to just take a pause. It's okay to not even have an opinion sometimes. And I think in spaces it's different. I feel like with family, sometimes I try to if a lot of people have shared their opinions and I'm kind of like, okay, I might like agree with one of that, then I'm like, I don't need to then share mine, which is hard because I want to. But
Family is particularly hard for that.
yeah. And I know that you have been in part of your studying, it's not just in like literature and books, but you've also been studying people and like sitting in, kitchens. I know you recently, Amanda, went back to Canada and got to see some family and seeing, I feel like when you visit family or are in people's like day to day, you kind of see how their lives work, especially when you're on vacay and you don't have to like be in your normal day to day routine. What have you learned about people when you slow down enough to see their like patterns and not just kind of seeing them in their moments?
Yeah, I mean, when we go into choosing the word of the year, usually we have a general understanding of our travel plans for the year. And so the plans that we have are certainly quite influential in the word choice. And as you mentioned, we have a lot of family this year, but also we're really honored to be going back to the home country of some of our friends that we met in New York, and we're going to meet their families and see their homes and kind of how they grew up. So that was part of where kind of study came from, because that friend that we're going back to his home specifically, he often talks about texture in relationships, and that you have to see people in different environments, different relationships to really understand them. And I really love that idea. Like every new setting, every person in their lives, every piece of their past, it adds texture to your relationship, your understanding of them, to the person. So yeah, our travel this year is really centered around visiting people in their homes, their hometowns, their families. I just visited my brother in his town of Victoria, British Columbia. It's on Vancouver Island. So I went to visit him and his fiance, and I hadn't actually visited them in nearly 10 years. Terrible older sister. Um, and it
It
was
happened.
just, it taught me so much. Even he took me to all the restaurants that he had worked at, and it was just really incredible to see his relationships with his colleagues, his bosses, his past colleagues, but then also, how he navigated the spaces that we were in that were once, stomping grounds for him. And so I found that people's lives make a lot more sense when you see that texture, and it helps you understand how to love them better. Like, if you walked into my husband and my home, the first thing you would notice is this like huge dining table for like 8 to 10 people in this tiny New York City apartment. And I think that tells you a lot about us and what we value, and that we intentionally built our spaces around, you know, food and connections and hosting. Yeah, I think that space alone tells you a lot about me without me having to say a lot.
For sure. And I love this idea of texture. And your friend, yeah, I mean, you're so right how you learn so much
Yeah.
when you see people in different environments
Mhm.
because we play different roles, whether we like it or not, when we're in different environments.
Mhm.
That's so special. I love that. It's challenging sometimes making time to go visit family. Like I know from being on the other end, living in New York for 12 years, some people came out to visit. My dad came out to visit a lot, probably the most, and probably saw me in my like natural environment.
Mhm.
And my mom like wasn't able to visit me as much because
Mhm.
my mom, like on my mom's side, I have younger brothers and our age gap is very different. So
Mhm.
he was like still fully in mom mode, whereas like my dad, it's just me and him. But you do really get to see different sides of people when you get to see them in different and traveling with them as well.
Mhm. Mhm. You learn a lot from someone traveling with them.
Yeah. Oh, that's so awesome that you're going to get to experience that.
I'm super honored. Really excited to go back.
I'm impressed that you know what you're doing for the year before the year starts.
I think that is part and parcel with my husband's travel anxiety. Like if he doesn't have a trip booked while we're
Mm,
on a trip, if he doesn't know where his next trip is, he's like, we got to start planning. So I will say that we're pretty organized about our travel because it's such a passion area for both of us. And so we're pretty thoughtful about the choices that we make there. And I fortunately have a sabbatical this year with my company to celebrate like a decade with the company. And so I had a good chunk of time. So that means I can get on a 30-hour flight to Africa, which is great.
I love that for you. I'm trying to get better at looking far in advance. And I have another good friend who does that as well, where once she's on a trip, the next thing she's doing is planning another
Yeah.
one. I feel like I'm procrastinating planning trips right now. And I'm like, I realize I have to go on a trip, so then I plan it. But I want to be more intentional. So I'm getting inspiration from you.
Oh, that's very exciting.
And we've been talking a lot about learning about other people, traveling to visit people in their like natural like environments. And this might be a hot take. Do you feel like people take the time to really understand each other anymore?
Ooh. Hmm.
I go back and forth.
I mean, less than we think. And I include myself in that. I've always been very interested in a framework, you know. I remember from like a very young age, I could say, this is my Myers-Briggs, this is my Enneagram, this is my astrology. I'm very quick to label and move on, I think, as like a control mechanism, especially in my younger years. But understanding someone takes time and texture, and it complicates your first impression. So I'm kind of trying to avoid doing that. I'm really haunted by this insight that I worked on years ago, that women build relationships face to face, but men build them shoulder to shoulder. And I'm noticing that more and more in our own lives, like drifting to this shoulder to shoulder dynamic, not just in male relationships, but all the relationships I'm seeing in my life. There's a lot, not just for me, but I see just, you know, when you're at dinner. Um, I think, and that means that and that goes back to our conversation about optimizing and time. And I think that just means that there's a lot of people in our lives that we don't fully understand, which is kind of wild to think about.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like where we are in society and just, I mean, we're in a different space than we were 50 years ago, 100
Mhm.
years ago, and just the amount of time we're spending with work and other aspects of our lives. And I feel like the free time can sometimes feel like there isn't a lot. And when we
We-
have that time, we're like, do we spend it on getting to know people more, or do we spend it on also filling our own cup up? Like, there's just so many places that I feel like individually we're getting pulled.
Yeah, I also feel that, we found solutions for the inconvenient parts of community that you would have to be friends with your neighbors if you wanted them to check on your cat when you were gone for a week, or like you had to pick up friends from the airport. There weren't Ubers, and I think that that inconvenience is part of what community building is, right? But because we're so optimized, we're taking out those pieces, and now we're not finding that depth of community anymore because we're not investing in those areas of our lives.
Yeah. I do love though, the idea of just getting a ride to the airport and not
Mm-hmm.
taking an Uber, even if it feels inconvenient. I feel like my dad's a culprit of that. Like, he would always offer to take me versus me taking an Uber. And now that I'm in a stage in my life where I'm like, this is nice and it's not inconveniencing him, and it's an opportunity for us to like make memories and have an experience that's different than when you're like in a car with a stranger.
Mm-hmm. And it's such an act of love to have someone do that for you.
For sure. It really is. That's what it's like when we go to Mexico. My boyfriend's family, they always pick us up from the airport and they take us somewhere to eat, and they're just very hospitable. And I feel like I'm learning the importance of that as an adult, which feels silly, but it's also nice because I'm trying to then also like model that in my own way.
Mm, it's
But
beautiful.
it doesn't always feel like it's the norm because we're so used to convenience.
Well, you really are.
Yeah. Oh, so much studying. I love it. And there's so many different ways to study our lives. And I feel like it takes a lot of intention to just like pause and do that.
Yeah.
What have you learned from being in spaces like kitchens and family homes and everyday routines? Have you learned anything more about yourself or about the people that you maybe have had in your life for a while, but haven't actually like had those opportunities to be in their spaces and kind of pause and reflect?
I think more generally, I've learned that I learn a lot more from just watching, observing than I do from what people tell me. Um, I think it's hard to tell your own story and it's hard to get to all the textures of it, but I don't know. I feel like I've learned to love people differently, better, maybe better, um, and understand them better, maybe give more grace, more empathy, not project myself onto them maybe so much. I think that's the biggest lesson I've been so far taking out of things, especially, visiting my brother. He's my baby brother, or he's not anymore. He's like a grown 30-year-old man. But this past trip, I found that I sat a lot more because he's made comments that he feels that we are so incredibly different, and he'll call my husband for advice and not me because I'm too head driven, and he feels my husband's more heart driven, and so he wants advice from him, not from me. And I think that kind of hurt my feelings when he said that, but that was years ago. But I do think that maybe spending this time with him allowed me to, and not jumping to projecting myself onto him, which is always so hard with your siblings. I maybe learned to understand him and his dreams and ambitions and who he wants to be a little bit more than what I had perceived from my, 17 years living in a home with him. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's challenging when you're the older sibling.
Yes.
I'm the eldest, and you want the best for your youngest siblings, and you have gone through some of the experiences already. But I resonate with you and how you're saying you're trying not to project and also like accept them that the journey that they're on.
Right. And like his definition of what is the best is very different than mine, right? So for me, it's like it helps me understand how to understand what that is for him or help him figure out what that is. And I can actually be a support system and not like a shepherd, which isn't my role for him, for anyone. So yeah, I get what you're saying.
I love that. I love that you're learning through these experiences because it's easy sometimes for us to experience things but not actually like learn and grow and just
Mm-hmm.
continue the same pattern. So it's great that you're staying open-minded, and I'm not surprised about that at all, knowing you.
You think I'm quite open-minded?
I think
Is
so.
that how I'm perceived?
I perceive
Interesting.
you as open-minded.
That's lovely to hear.
Would you think you're open-minded?
I try to be, but I don't think folks that knew me in my younger years would say that. So I'm glad.
I mean, I'm not trying to make this about me, but I feel the same way sometimes because
Mm,
I stayed in California basically through high school and then I moved to New York and I stayed there for 12 years. And I was going through that when I moved back to California of this some people who had seen me in my like New York stage really came to know who I am and have known who I'm at like my whole life. And then I have other family members sometimes that just see me from different stages of my life and not like the growth.
mm,
And that can be challenging and almost like make me question my own, like, have I grown? But
mhm.
in therapy, I'm learning I have grown. But it is challenging sometimes when I feel like you see yourself some way, but then you also know people see you a certain way.
Yeah. And that's some of the texture that my friend always mentions as well, right? Like meeting people from different stages of your life that knew a different version of you and maintaining those friendships and bringing new friendships into those relationships, like all of that is part of the texture.
For sure. Well, I feel like this has been good, deep convo, and we're talking a lot about traveling, and I feel like you are a world traveler. When you visit a place, how do you
Mm.
let a place change you instead of just passing through
Ah,
it?
I think I was really lucky that I learned this very early on. I remember when I first had moved to France in my early 20s, having like a complete meltdown with my roommate in the middle of a Carrefour because like a grocery store because we couldn't find taco seasoning. And it felt so ridiculous. But it was like, oh, I can't just pick up my life and replicate it here. And it just became such a small thing that became a huge lesson of like when I'm traveling, not how do I force my routines into this place, but almost like, who am I in this place? How do people live here? It's less about control. It's really hard not to grasp onto the routines or the food or whatever it was that was your ritual where you were, but really leaning into the curiosity of how those people live. It's like very Anthony Bourdain in some ways, which I like adore him in his theories and philosophies of life. So yeah, love a
I
good
love
old
that.
Anthony Bourdain day.
Oh, same here. And I feel like, was truly a world traveler and embraced so many different cultures.
Mhm, mhm.
I'm sure a lot of people can relate that have studied abroad on your story. And it's so funny hearing that supermarket name because I am familiar with that from my study abroad
Yeah.
days, but I haven't heard that in so long. Like that name.
I
And
feel like I have a pretty seared memory of everywhere that I've had a mental breakdown or in my
that's
head, like
fair.
everything down to the smells.
I've had quite a few mental breakdowns in my freshman dorm, like in the staircase.
The staircase. Oh no.
Yeah. So my mom has stories. So many stories. We've all been there. Especially if you've taken yourself out of your comfort zone at a young age. I think it's
Yeah.
just inevitable.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's so much easier to study everything else than to study ourselves?
Oh no. Maybe because it requires bravery. You don't get to be neutral. You're confronting things you normally just move past. There's no distance from it. It's you. It's inside you.
Yeah,
um, and like a little bit like what we were talking about earlier, it's hard to get the perspective sometimes too. Yeah.
I think bravery, you're very right on that. Does take bravery to look at yourself in the mirror and really be honest with yourself versus just projecting something or focusing on another person.
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, on that topic, what's something about yourself you're currently in the process of learning?
Mm. That I move quickly, not because I can, because I'm uncomfortable sitting in certainty. It's uncertainty. Um, Especially in my marriage. We're very different people. And so for me, study is building the muscle of staying a little longer, being more observant, holding back my thoughts or opinions, and even informing them so that I can love people more deeply and not just more efficiently. I don't know. I think that I have learned, yeah, a little bit about my competence kink and how deeply it goes and how much that actually changes how I've allowed myself to understand and love the people around me. I'm hoping to grow in that way.
I feel like you're growing already in that way, which is beautiful to see. And
Thank you.
it's not something that people like talking about, and I think it's
Mm,
vulnerable of you to share what you're sharing.
thanks. I feel like sometimes that goes back to like the depth of things like that we're missing. Like we're missing so much context and depth in our culture right now. And I feel like it's because people don't always have these conversations as openly with the people closest to them in their lives. So
Yeah,
scary, but I'm happy to share with you.
thank you. It is scary. I've gone through that in my relationship with my boyfriend, and that's something that we've like worked through in couples therapy because as a Virgo, I can also, I'm like, let's do this at this pace, and this is how I would do it, and this is not fast enough. And so I've had to learn that, yeah, like we all go at our own pace, and
Mm,
sometimes just there's other ways that we can approach things and let people go at their pace because sometimes it's like it's not worth like what's the harm at the end of the day?
right.
But that is easier said than done.
Much. Much.
What do you think gets in the way of depth in our lives? You know, we're talking a lot about that. I know there's this resistance of, you know,
Yeah,
staying surface.
I think it's ego. It goes back to what we were saying about like depth requires you to admit you don't fully understand something or don't have an opinion about it. And a lot of the time, I use competence as a shortcut. And I'm very driven by my three wing two to be seen as like capable and valuable and worthy of the space that I take up in this world. And sometimes that means I move quickly through things to maintain that identity because I'm scared of the perception of what if I didn't have, what if I wasn't perceived as competent on this thing? What if I wasn't seen as worthy of that space? That is a terrifying thought to me. So ego.
I love this answer, and I think that a lot of people probably feel the same way and maybe don't even realize it.
Really?
I
Maybe.
think so. Because at the end of the day, like to your point, there is no harm really in sitting with something for a minute and maybe not knowing.
Mm,
But on the surface, we want to be perceived in a certain way sometimes.
mm,
And so we do what we need to do to like keep that facade.
mm, It's a control mechanism for sure.
Yeah. What are you currently avoiding looking at more closely?
I don't know if I'm currently avoiding it. I think it goes back like where I use competence as a shortcut, especially with work, I think. Leaving space for my team a lot more than I have, I think. Sometimes I get off a call and I'm like, I should shut the fuck up. Like my whole team knows the answer to these questions. Why was I the one speaking? They know this better than me. This is their workflows, their programs. They're brilliant, incredible colleagues. And so sometimes, yeah, with work, I think is the place that I use competence as a shortcut sometimes more. And I'm not avoiding it anymore, but I'm very aware of it now.
I love that you're aware of it. And I can't say personally, like, yes, I agree with you because I feel like we work together in different capacities. But I appreciate how honest you're being with these hard questions.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate you giving us the space to talk about them.
That's what we're here for because growing isn't always pretty.
No, it's so
And
messy.
it's so messy. And we don't talk about the messiness. And I
No.
think we need to talk about it more because growing is a part of life. Like
Yeah,
I feel like it's not
yeah.
like a season. It's just something that is here, at least in my life. I feel like it's an everyday type of thing, even in small ways.
Mm,
So that's why I love that we're talking about like study and how you've really been like sitting in these spaces and with these thoughts, because that's sometimes the hardest part is to really like sit and reflect and be honest with what you're like learning about yourself.
mm, mhm.
But it's so important for your growth.
Yeah, I do think so, especially after a year of giddy up. I definitely
Yeah,
needed to spend a
it's
moment taking a pause.
I love that. And I know that as like any habit, the more you do it, it becomes second nature and feeling less like a chore.
Mhm.
If someone wants to live with more depth this year or next year, where do you think they should start?
I think it's just like pick a thing and just stay with it longer than you normally would. Stay 2 minutes longer. 5 minutes sounds like torturous.
I think that's good advice. And it's, getting back to the like getting comfortable to pause and
Mm,
really sit for a second
yeah.
is so hard. What are small ways to practice studying your life or your relationships and environment that you could share?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like another one is like repeat instead of replace. Like I think a lot about like one of the small things that I've been doing a lot more this year is like cooking. And I've been repeating my recipes and like perfecting them and refining them instead of constantly like following a new food blogger and be like, oh, I'm gonna try that one. Oh, I'm gonna try that one. I'm trying to refine the ones that I love.
I love
I
that
think that's like a small thing that you could do in practice as well.
for sure. And it's simple. Okay, so what are you choosing to study in your life right now? Is there anything in particular that is top of mind for you that you're like hyper focusing on?
For almost, oh wow, almost 20 years I've been speaking French, but I feel like conversationally I'm not as strong as I'd like to be. So I spent the first 3 months of the year doing like conversation labs. So I was speaking more. And then I have tennis lessons. That's one of the things I like about the word of the year as well, is that it also helps me like guide my finances. Like, yeah, maybe last year, it went more to like impulsive, spontaneous choices. This year, it's going to like classes more. Yeah, and places. I think we're traveling a little bit more, and I'm reading a lot more about where I'm traveling when I'm there. So I can understand the context and not just like my experience. So yeah, I think those are maybe the three, and then recipes like we chatted through. I think it's just easy one are kind of the top ones.
I love that. I love that
Yeah,
you're focusing on language and tennis, and I feel like getting outside is also going to be great for your mental health.
I think so. I need to touch grass.
I need to touch more grass too. I feel like we all need to touch grass.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. This has been so great. I have been trying to interweave gratitude more into Precisely Nowhere and spreading gratitude. So, do you have anything? It can be one thing that you're grateful for.
A really slow dinner with people I love where no one is in a rush to leave. I feel like I'm very grateful for that.
I love that. That's such a good answer.
Thank you.
Giving me European vibes.
Ooh, I like that. What's your gratitude moment?
Ooh, my gratitude moment. I'm grateful for having awesome people in my life that are willing to come onto this pod and be vulnerable. I feel like a lot of the guests that I've had are people that I just know and have crossed paths with, like in my personal life or in my work.
Mm.
And I know that it can be uncomfortable to like open yourself up and let me ask you random questions. And so I'm grateful that I have those people in my life because I feel like it's helping me build my relationships with them
Mm.
in different ways. And it's fun to get to like have this fun space where we're doing it and we can just do whatever we want.
And I'm sure everyone, including myself, of course, I feel incredibly honored to spend this time with you on your passion project.
Thank you. I'm honored too. It's been, I mean, it's fun. So this is like one of the most fun parts of the pod is getting to connect with people. So I'm grateful for that opportunity. Not to make it about the pod. It's a real answer. This is my first interview of this year.
Is it?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of planning this year, but a lot of them have been solo episodes. So this is my first one of this year, and I have more to come after this, but super excited. And I feel like I grow more with every interview. So
What a
it
gift to
is
have like all the wisdom of all your friends and like the challenges that they're all going through at this time. And what a gift to work through them together.
right.
Mhm.
What is one thing you're loving right now?
I think honestly, for me, I really like the new Zara Larson album. I'm really, really having a Zara
Ooh.
Larson phase right now. You know, I saw her on a couple podcasts too, talking about like her own manifestation to her own success and how she found success by, you know, learning how to authentically show up in a way that was like really true to her sense of creativity. And I love how she's so unapologetically able to like own her talent and speak about her talent. And also her new album has like all these incredible other women on it with her. And yeah, so I was listening to that like all day yesterday and this morning. So I think that's my answer.
I have not listened to it, and I need to listen to it.
I need to. Yes, highly recommend.
I'm loving that I'm drinking wine again.
Oh, well, that's a great answer. Welcome back to the club.
That's going to be my answer. I've been enjoying a glass of wine every now and then, and it's so nice after like not drinking for a minute.
Good for you.
Thank you. Can you tell listeners where they can find you?
This is so lame, but you can catch me on LinkedIn. I think that is where I am most active is on LinkedIn, which is so funny. But yeah, it's just work related. Yeah, Amanda Schaufele. Hit me up on LinkedIn.
I will drop your LinkedIn in the episode description. Not lame at all. I'm more active on that than Instagram.
Me too.
There's just too many platforms. I
And
feel
the
like
games kind of hit. I'm not gonna lie.
the games do it. There's games, there's like inspirational content. I feel like I'm getting to kind of stay in touch with what's happening in my friends' lives that I don't work with anymore, which is nice.
100%. You heard it here first. Please, LinkedIn sponsor precisely no one.
Thank you very much. Amanda can be a recurring guest. This was so great. I appreciate your time and your wisdom and just being 100% you. This is not an easy topic to cover, but you crushed it.
Oh, thanks. I'm super honored that you invited me, and I just love spending time with you over a glass of wine.
Same. I wish I was in New York still, but I will, next time I come, we're definitely going to catch up.
We can have you for dinner. I'd love that.
That would be lovely. Well, I hope you have a lovely evening with your friends and a good rest of your weekend.
You too. I'll see you on Monday.
I hope you all enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Amanda has so much wisdom to share, and I know that I will be thinking about my word of the year as I go into 2027. Not sure what that is yet, but we all have plenty of time to think about it since it's only July if you're listening to this when the episode comes out. And I look forward to the rest of 2026, embracing it with more intention, and love you all. Thank you so much for listening. Talk soon and stay safe out there.
Music done by Marco. You can find him at midnight, MIDNITE_mind80 on Instagram.